guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, it is so great to have you. I'm Antoinette, a New Zealander living in the beautiful wine region of Lower Franconia, Germany. I feel so incredibly happy and content right now. My heart is so full because I have my beautiful, amazing mum staying with us from New Zealand. So she's not in this video because she is out in our backyard playing with the kids, just catching up on lost time, just spending quality time with them. She's here with us for 9 whole weeks, and I am so happy about that because I haven't seen her for 2 years. And you know, when she comes for a decent amount of time because it is such a long journey from New Zealand to Germany. We haven't done much at all in these few weeks because we've just been catching up on lost time. So some of our days are just spent just talking. We do keep in touch over WhatsApp and we often have video chats, but it's just not the same as having mum here in person. She doesn't have to rush off anywhere. I've just got her undivided attention. So I have mentioned before that when mum is here with us in Germany, she notices so many little cultural differences that have just become so normal to me now that I don't even think about. And I find it really interesting when she points out little things about life in Germany that I maybe have forgotten were cultural differences or culture shocks. So I said to mum, when you notice anything at all that may be a little bit different or a little bit of a culture shock, or you think to yourself, that's unusual or that's a bit weird, you need to write it down. So mum has been doing that. I've got this big list of cultural differences. So on behalf of my mum Marie, these are some normal, everyday German things that have surprised my New Zealand mum or my Kiwi mum. This is in no particular order, but something that mum pointed out, I think it was like the second day she was here, we went to the supermarket together, and she always enjoys coming to the supermarket with me in Germany and just looking at all of the products, the different German products, and the prices as well, because New Zealand is notorious for very high grocery prices. She did notice that a lot of the packaging in Germany is a lot smaller than in New Zealand. For example, the milk in New Zealand, she's written down here that milk in New Zealand comes in 1, 2, and 3 litre cartons. And it's actually usually a plastic bottle with a handle. And, you know, if you've got a really big family, you will buy the big 3 litre bottle or carton of milk. And you can't find these big cartons or bottles of milk in Germany. So the standard milk size in Germany is just 1 litre and it comes in a carton. Mum just thought that was interesting that you couldn't get anything bigger. Like, it wasn't a criticism or anything like that. It was just something she noticed. We go through a lot of milk in my family, and I just said you need to always buy the 1 litre carton, and you just buy a lot of cartons if you need a lot of milk. Also, she wrote down here, Germany sells butter in 250 gram blocks. In New Zealand, butter comes in 500 gram blocks. And also in New Zealand, you can buy kilo blocks of cheese. So the average family in New Zealand will buy just this big block of cheese, which, what did she say? It comes in 1 kilo blocks, and they call it family blocks. And you just slice the cheese as you need it. And you just can't find this in Germany. So the cheese, like, I'm not talking about the fancy cheeses, like the soft cheeses and, you know, those fancy gourmet cheeses. I'm talking about just a standard block of cheese. You can buy this in Germany, but it is sliced really thinly and it is in smaller portions. As I said, it's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it's just a cultural difference. So you can just buy a lot more bulk products in New Zealand supermarkets. And I think this has something to do with the fact that Germans, they will go to the grocery store or the supermarket more frequently. And so in New Zealand, I've talked about this before, but families will do their weekly supermarket shop, and you'll see trolleys which are just piled up with food, and that is going to last the family for the whole week. But in Germany, many German families will shop more often and buy less. And I think there isn't the need to buy, you know, the bulk meat or the bulk vegetables and fruit and cheese because, you know, you're going to the supermarket 2 or 3 times a week and buying small quantities. Also, something else that mum pointed out, and she probably won't like me saying this because she hates to criticize anything about Germany. She loves Germany so much, but she did notice that the apples are not as crispy and fresh as they are in New Zealand. I have to say, in New Zealand, we are very spoiled with our apples. I think we have the best apples in the world. And I grew up next to an orchard, so I was used to fresh apples off the tree. I just love all the different apple varieties in New Zealand. I remember as a kid just loving Pacific Rose apples and Braeburn apples and Jazz. There's a variety called Jazz, which you can find in Germany, but it just doesn't taste the same. And I know I've talked about this in previous videos, but you do find a lot of New Zealand apples in Germany, but imagine how long they've had to travel. And I've heard that they pick the apples in New Zealand when they're not quite ripe to export to different countries. And so it's a long trip from New Zealand to Germany. And once the apples reach Germany, they are not as fresh as what we are used to in New Zealand. And, Mum tried a few different varieties like Pink Lady. They're not as good. They're not as good. I've never tasted an apple in Germany that compares to the apples in New Zealand, I have to say that. And so that was something Mum noticed, and she notices it every time she comes to Germany. And she's not complaining or anything. She'll eat the apple and it's not bad, but it's just not as fresh and tasty as the apples that she's used to. Something else Mum pointed out, and something she thought was really cool, was seeing so many parents in Germany on bikes transporting their children with bike trailers, and also she noticed a lot of cargo bikes this time around, which she didn't notice last time she was in Germany a few years ago. Cargo bikes are something that I never noticed in Germany until recently, but last weekend we were in Würzburg, so the closest city to where we live, and we saw so many of these really awesome, like flash-looking cargo bikes. A lot of families, they don't have cars, and I think a lot of Germans are very environmentally conscious, so they would rather use a bike. It's more environmentally friendly. Mum just thought it was so cool seeing parents using these bike trailers and cargo bikes to transport their children. And she said that she'd hardly ever seen a bike trailer in New Zealand, and I'm sure they have them in New Zealand, but New Zealand doesn't have that biking culture that Germany has, and so most parents will just drive their children everywhere. But in Germany, they use, cargo bikes and bike trailers as a replacement for a car. Something else that Mum always finds a little bit surprising is seeing the cigarette vending machines. I have talked about this before. She thought it was quite unusual having these vending machines for cigarettes in Germany right next to a children's vending machine for lollies or, candy. My kids get so excited when they see these little machines where you can put in like 10 cents or 20 cents and you get some bubble gum or a couple of lollies or a bouncy ball or something like that. But these are located within close proximity to a cigarette vending machine, which just didn't make a lot of sense to Mum. And we don't have cigarette vending machines in New Zealand at all. It's definitely not something you'll see. And so yeah, she was just a bit surprised to see that. Also, something she pointed out was that you see quite a few Germans smoking, and you don't see a lot of New Zealanders smoking. I do have to say this has improved a lot since I first came to Germany. I think there are a lot less Germans that smoke than when I first came. I was actually pretty shocked at how many Germans smoked when I first came to Germany. But Mum was quite surprised to see quite a few of the younger generation here smoking. But in saying that, you don't see a lot of people vaping here, and you see a lot of people vaping in New Zealand. That's something I noticed when I was back in New Zealand. Vaping had become really popular. Also, just skipping back to supermarkets, Mum did notice that the prices in Germany had increased a lot. And I just remember years ago when Mum would come and visit me, she'd just be so amazed at how cheap everything was. She's not noticing that so much now, and she'll always look at a price and then kind of double it, and then she can work out how much that would be in New Zealand dollars. And a lot of the time she's just been like, oh, that's very similar to what we would pay in New Zealand. And New Zealand is notorious for high prices. And so some of the prices in Germany, she'll say, oh, that is a lot less expensive. But then other prices, she'll say, no, that is definitely on par with New Zealand. She did point out that in Germany there is a lot more competition when it comes to supermarket chains. So you are able to, have more competitive prices. In New Zealand there is Countdown Woolworths, there is Pack and Save and New World. And so, there isn't that competition. And in Germany, we have so many different supermarket chains, Aldi, Lidl, Netto, Kaufland, Penny, just there's so many. And yeah, Mum just said she thinks that has something to do with the high prices in New Zealand, the lack of competition between the supermarket chains. So that's all I'm going to talk about for this video. I'm going to save some more of Mum's culture shocks or cultural observations between Germany and New Zealand for another video. So there will be a part 2, maybe even a part 3. I'll just see, how much you guys enjoy this video, and, hopefully I will make a few different parts. I hope nobody takes this as a criticism, because as I said, Mum absolutely loves Germany and she just really embraces the differences and it just fascinates her. Also, seeing Germany from Mum's eyes really takes me back to when I first came to Germany and everything was so new and exciting, and I love seeing Germany through Mum's eyes. So I've got a lot more to discuss for future videos. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. It helps to get my videos out there and noticed, and that kind of boosts the algorithm a little bit and my videos can reach a wider audience. Also, I know that so many of you who watch my videos are not actually subscribed to my channel. So if you love my content, so if you enjoy my content, if you find my videos interesting, I would absolutely love you to consider subscribing. That would mean so much to me. Also, feel free to connect with me on Instagram, and I will see you again really soon. Bye.